Saskatoon continues to lead the province with a number of numbers that are showing positive signs, and we've invited Councillor Randy Donauer, who's also the Deputy Mayor for the month of February, for the City of Saskatoon to shed some light on some pretty spectacular information. Thanks for coming down today.
Absolutely.
Actually.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the numbers that have been released about the City of Saskatoon. There's employment numbers. There's recently released immigration numbers as well. The city is growing. These are fantastic figures, and it must be indicative of a desire to be here and some things that are in place making people come.
Yeah, it's a very good news story. You know, we're using the Mike Jordan down at City Hall took some numbers from Stats Canada and from the provincial and federal government and kind of separated out the Saskatoon metropolitan area to see what it looks like here. And really a good news story. We saw our population as a city grow by 14,000 people last year. We saw employment numbers in our city go up by 11,000 new jobs in the city last year. We're leading the country on our employment rate. Our employment rate is about 67%, which is tops about every metropolitan area in the country. And there's 199,000 people that are working here in the Saskatoon area now. And so, you know, really good news. It says there's a lot of investment going on in our city. There's, growth going on in our city. Most of the population growth to the province and to the city of Saskatoon has come through immigration. That's a good news story for the city of Saskatoon, for the employers that are looking for labor force to come here. We need a lot of skilled laborers in our city, but it presents challenges to a municipality as well. And so really a good news story, but it leaves the city also making sure that we have to prepare for the future adequately and properly as well.
So in your role as a councillor, when you see something like this come in front of you, there has to be some level of expectation that we did some things to get us here, and then what are the next steps to get to the next page, if you will, of where the city wants to go and should be. Obviously, if you were to take these numbers out of the provincial factor, it remains fairly flat. So Saskatoon is obviously the economic engine of the province.
Yeah, when we look at job growth, we see, you know, since 2016, our employment has gone up 22.5%, whereas the rest of the province has only gone up 1.4% in that same amount of years. So it really is a matter that Saskatoon is both the population driver and the economic engine of the province. You know, we need all the different aspects of our province and we need all the different municipalities, but if you look at where the economic driver is and where a lot of the investment and population is, it's coming here. You look back and you say, you know, what have we done that's right? What do we need to do to prepare for the future? I think there's a lot of different opinions about whether a government can create economic benefits or can create economic growth. But I'll tell you for sure what I know is a government can kill it. And so as a municipality, I think we have an opportunity in front of us. And we're thriving in population growth and economic growth. I think capital is very mobile, so I think we have to be very careful what we do with this opportunity. I think it's a good problem to have. I'd rather it be that than the reverse problem where you have unemployment and people leaving your city or your province. Those are problems that you never want. But having 14, let's look at the population growth in the city of Saskatoon. About 14,000 people came to our city last year. That is like adding the city of North Battleford to the city of Saskatoon in 1 year, in 12 months. That's great as far as what you want to happen in your city, but what it also means is we have to provide for those people. I know we didn't have housing for 14,000 people built just last year. I know we didn't have enough parks and streets built to accommodate 14,000 people last year. We probably didn't add enough to Chief Cooper's budget to accommodate policing for something the size of North Battleford last year. We've got a lot of unemployed people as far as, unhoused people in our city. We've got we're becoming a big city, but with it means we've got some big city problems too. When we look at what are drivers to attract investment into your city, there's really two things that a municipality does have control over that are the predominant drivers of attracting investment to your city that I've been told. There's many, but two of the biggest ones are having a competitive corporate tax rate and property tax rate, and making sure that we have the proper transportation and amenities for businesses and infrastructure for business to do its job here. Those are the two things that we hear. And so, and those can be competing things sometimes. How do you make sure that you've got infrastructure for a growing city, like up here in the North End, where, you know, commercial and industrial lots are flying off the shelf, while keeping your tax rate low and making sure that it's competitive. And so if we don't do something, and if we don't manage this property, this influx of people coming into our city, just something as simple as if we don't make sure that we've got housing starts trying to match those levels, what's going to happen is what we saw back in 2006, 7, and 8, where we didn't keep up with housing starts. We weren't putting lots out fast enough. They weren't building houses fast enough. And eventually your inventory of available housing starts to diminish, and you see bidding wars. And then the cost, absolutely, then the cost of housing goes through the roof. And I remember those days, you know, some friends of mine and I were trying to buy houses at the time, and, you know, you'd put an offer in and then bidding would go back and forth, and the price of housing went through the roof. And one of the main benefits of coming to Saskatoon and Saskatchewan is that for all the amenities that we have here, we have a relatively low cost of living and low cost of getting into a home. We got to manage that properly to make sure that this doesn't put us off kilter there and that we lose that competitive advantage. Because if we don't keep up on housing starts, and that does concern me, you know, we talk about all the people moving here, but the amount of housing starts didn't match that last year. And so these are things, and in the city of Saskatoon, we have some levers that we can pull with that. And so we have to make sure that we're getting out there to make sure that we're making it easy for developers to service lots and get them onto the market, and then easy for builders to grab those lots and build them, and make sure that we have everything from residential homes to multi-unit dwellings as well.
And I think you touched on that in an earlier comment that, you know, we have some challenges as a city, 300,000 now. But I've traveled a bit, many people have, and I'll take the issues we have over what some other cities are enduring. So I think we're leaders in a number of areas. And you mentioned that capital is highly mobile, and I think that's one of the things to our credit here, that people see this as a good place to be. There's some stability, and as an economic driver, we're centrally located. When you look at the amenities, so people need housing and jobs, but we talked about the downtown event and entertainment district as an example. Sometimes we hear that I want to live there because it's close to amenities like that. Swimming pools, skating rinks, curling rinks. Do you see that on the horizon in terms of things you have to kind of weave together and make the city whole?
Absolutely, both to attract people, you know, to our city to move here, and to accommodate the population growth that we have. When we talk to large corporations, Saskatchewan-built corporations that have headquarters here, you know, they attract VPs and executives from all over the world to come and work here and bring their excellence to Saskatoon. You know, and when you talk to them, they say, I need to have amenities in the city in order to recruit. If I'm going to bring a mining executive from Europe or South Africa or somewhere to come live in Saskatoon, they might want to go to a Blades game. They might not all want to go to a Blades game. Some of them might want to go to the symphony. Some of them might want to take their kids swimming. Some of them might want to go to the jazz festival. And the need for us, especially as a winter city with a harsh climate, the need for us to have a diversity of amenities to offer new residents, I think, is very important to us if we want to keep attracting people here. And then we need to provide those amenities for our own residents too. So, you know, part of my ward is the north end of the city. I took Silver Spring into Ward 5 before the last election. And that northeast corner, I've been working with Councillor Jeffries for a number of years before it was in my ward. We've seen 4 or 5 new neighborhoods go up in the northeast corner without a new civic center. I think that's inappropriate. I think that speaks to what I talked about earlier. Are our priorities out of line? If we want to keep taxes down while making sure that we have the infrastructure necessary for both business and our residents to do everything that they need to do in the city, those things can work at cross purposes to each other. But what it tells me then is that we have to be laser focused on making sure we're providing basic core services first, and only providing other things if we think we can afford it. And I think sometimes that is a dangerous thing for municipalities to have to deal with. So much seems to end up on our plate nowadays. The danger is you sometimes are tempted to be all things to all people. And the reality of it is you're not going to be all things to all people. You're not going to be able to keep all your residents happy. And for sure, you can't afford to do everything. And so I think we need to decide, I think this council and the next council is going to have to decide what are our priorities and what are the key things that a municipality needs to be able to provide to their residences, and what are the things that are out there that will help attract investment into our city.
This is going to be a tough question, and I know you can give a long answer. We have a couple minutes left.
Sure.
But with all of those expenditures, how does the city of Saskatoon fare in the eyes of the investment community? AAA credit rating,
Right.
Is that important going forward?
I think it's very important to us, for a couple reasons. Number one, you want to attract investment so that you have money coming into your city to create jobs and economic benefit. That investment and the desirability for investment also speaks to the immigration factor. Most of the growth in our province and in our city has come through international immigration, and a lot of that is in the investment and the entrepreneur categories that people are finding a reason to invest and move here, either bring their capital here or start up a business here. One thing I am very proud of is ever since 2002, when Standard & Poor's started doing municipal assessments for credit ratings, Saskatoon has maintained a AAA credit rating. They just came out with their assessment. We kind of take it as annual news here in Saskatoon, and I think sometimes we slough it off and it almost sounds like a campaign speech. The reality of it is, though, all across our country, there's only a handful of municipalities that do have a AAA credit rating and none that have maintained it for as long as we do. And so when they assess us, it's very important, for us to be transparent and open and fair with our finances so our residents know what's going on. What's really helpful in that is to have a third party from the outside that looks at municipalities from coast to coast and that makes statements in their financial assessment like Saskatoon's debt ratio is low. Saskatoon has robust budgeting policies and they stay within their spending limits. Saskatoon is very competitive and will remain a place that's attractive to investors in the future. All those things feed into a AAA credit rating. I like the AAA credit rating, and when it comes out we get a nice headline. I always go to the notes, and the notes that Standard & Poor's gave the city of Saskatoon really are second to none. And I can't take all the credit for that. It was an economic system that was put in place years ago, but it's one that we all work very diligently to achieve, to make sure that we stay attractive for investment so that we can afford the things that our residents want.
I think we're on our way, and the report cards are coming in good, so keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down today, and hopefully we'll see you in the fall.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me, Randy.
Right on.
Take care.
Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back.